Joining us today is Andrew Beeston, and I've known Andrew for, it would be 15 years. We met working at Hope 1032 in Sydney. He was working for an email web company called Brownbox. Since then, he works for one of the largest companies around the world in communications and email marketing, and he spends a lot of time talking to corporates and working with corporates with their email strategies. So it's a great privilege to have Andrew join us this morning. And as I said, we'll walk you through an introduction to email marketing. So thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. It's great to be here. Really, look, I get very excited talking about email marketing. Not many people do, but it's one thing that I actually really enjoy. And I guess one thing to kind of start off with, you mentioned that I have corporate clients, and this is something I like to throw around, which is, like I always tell my corporate clients, build your email list. You never know if MySpace will be superseded. It's a very facetious way of saying things. But it kind of goes to the stability and the long-term kind of nature of email. And as you were like you were saying before, building relationships, which is what people are trying to do all the time on the web and through radio. Yeah, so, you know, it's really, I guess it's been a passion of mine for a long time, and something that we all do at its most basic, which is have relationships with other people.
Right.
I guess maybe for something that you wanted to, you know, maybe you have to leave, or you've stopped listening halfway through today for some reason. This is the kind of upfront what we want to just say about email. 3 things. You can do email even with the most basic of skills. It's really valuable even at small doses. And anything that you do is probably better than nothing. I say probably. Maybe sometimes it's not, but giving it a go is really going to help.
Excellent. So yeah, tell us about, I mean, you made that quote about MySpace and
Yeah.
Social media, Facebook. I mean, the key thing, socials are great, but we have seen over time your organic reach, your ability to reach your listener base has dwindled and dwindled every year. And that's because these guys are really big advertising marketing machines, and they want you to spend your coins with them. Whereas the magic, the beauty of building up an email marketing list is that you own it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, like the joke in my quote about MySpace is that what happened to MySpace? Facebook came along and just smashed it out of the water, and people had been spending thousands of dollars investing in making their MySpace pages beautiful, and overnight that was all wiped out because people's attention went elsewhere. And the same will be true of Facebook eventually, I'm quite sure. You know, loads of platforms all over the place. And so email marketing is, or email as a conversational tool, is the media that you own, that you keep, and you get to manage.
Yeah, I was surprised, Andrew, that, you know, there was a study back in 2014 that said that for every $1 you put into email, it's worth 40 more, you get 40 times more back than if you would invest that in social, Facebook advertising and Instagram ads.
Yeah,
so return on investment is quite strong for email.
Yeah, it's huge, and it has been for a long time. So 2014 was the quote. It's obviously been a while since then, but it's still the case. Businesses continue to put money into email and see the results. You know, it's much bigger than social, and yeah, again, it's something that you're investing in that you get to keep. It's not just something that you're investing in and one day it could go away.
Yeah, and I think current stats are now that you know, we check our mobile phones over 100 times a day, which is at least twice an hour, and that we're spending over 3 hours a day on our mobile devices. So it's really important. We're not here to talk about addictions and overuse of mobile devices, but that's for another webinar. But it's important. The stats show that you really need to be on mobile and be in people's inboxes so you can be actually talking to your audience.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and maybe we'd need to get my wife in on anything that talks about addiction to mobile phones, because I'm not sure I'm one to speak about that. But you know, the most kind of popular activity on mobile phones is actually checking email, and so even though the device is different to where you might think people are traditionally checking their emails, it's actually still a huge a part of people's behavior is to check what's new, check your inbox.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the meat of I guess setting goals and sort of developing why are we going to do email.
Yeah, cool. So maybe I'll just do this a bit of a background here for kind of why you are able to do email.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have the fanciest tools. You don't have to have code knowledge, and that's a really great thing that has come about from email. Years ago, it used to be that you'd have to code everything yourself, but now there are tools available that make it super easy for small organizations, small businesses to be able to do email really easily. But the principle here is that email is a one-on-one conversation. It's a relationship. You just happen to repeat that lots of times by sending it to a group of people, a group of subscribers. But if you think about it in those terms, then it's definitely something that you can do. And it's a conversation between you, a station, you have news about yourself, and people who want to hear it and who have asked to hear about it. Those are your subscribers.
Yeah.
It's probably something you already do.
And I probably, from my background, I have a habit of just probably looking at the stats and looking at email as numbers and a list rather than actually it being a relationship between me and a listener, and then having that as the key focus of developing and giving the listeners information rather than just asking or talking about myself all the time. So there's a principle of always giving value to your listeners, isn't it? Whether that's
that's it. Yeah, that's it. And it's really something that people are coming to you not just for an ad, and they want to get something out of it. And you can do that. It's really valuable to continue to give and give and give to people instead of focusing on this idea that it's just you're sending an ad to somebody. It's certainly not like an ad channel, as we talk about it at work, but a place to have a one-on-one relationship. And that's really, when you come to that kind of thinking and approach it in that way, you're going to get the most out of it.
Okay, cool. So I guess we can talk about the kinds of emails that a radio station might send. I guess the basic one would be a newsletter where you're informing your listeners about content that was aired on the radio that week, and that you might give them a weekly update perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. You can do newsletters is one of the most popular things. Actually, newsletters are getting even more popular as whole businesses can be run just off the back of a newsletter. But you might also be sending an email, which is just a one-on-one. Maybe it's a CEO or a presenter sending an email to people asking for something. Hey, we are having a fundraiser this month. Can you help us? We need your help. There are other newsletters. A numerous list of ways or reasons you might send an email. So it really is about, if you want to communicate something, what are you going to communicate? What's the most valuable thing?
Yeah, so it's thinking about your artists that you're playing on the radio station. It's really up to your imagination and understanding your listeners and what they want to hear from you, and then knowing your own capabilities, Andrew, I guess. What can I actually deliver? Because I guess less is more.
Yes, and less is more. And people often get overwhelmed by the idea of having to do something. because they feel like they have to do everything all at once. But as I often say, just doing something regularly is going to be really valuable. And you will probably know if you're in a station and you know the people who are listening to you, or you know the types of person who are listening to you, you will probably know why they come to your station, why they listen, and you can use that to give them content, to send an email that is of value to them. And so no matter what it is, if it's gigs, you're probably in Queensland, I guess, where you can go outside. But whatever it is, it can also kind of change as well. It doesn't have to be something that is hard and fast. If something needs to change about your emails, then do it.
And last night we were chatting, and I think we did mention local news with the closure of so many newspapers in regional areas. There's a gap there for you to be able to share local news. And I know Hunter News, which is a service that the University of Newcastle does, they do daily news bulletins on air. That's something they could actually transition into a daily newsletter with the highlights from the Hunter region of New South Wales, giving their listeners a daily news update, which might also include weather for the day or whatever. So
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be something really hard. Like a daily news email, for instance, where it's filling a gap of local news, can really help with, as those organizations pull out of doing that paper-based news and web-based news, really help with building a community, building a tribe, and coming around that idea, no matter what it is. So most people are getting their news otherwise off Facebook, off maybe Twitter, and this is a way for you to fill that gap.
And, many probably watching are a station of one, where you program, where you present, where you manage, and where you do emails. So I guess an easy win is also the idea of curating, because we're in a really noisy environment. People don't have time to troll through heaps of papers and newsletters and all that kind of stuff. So if you can curate the best information in your local area and share it, that's gold, because you're saving your listeners heaps of time. And it's an easy win, as you read publications, that would be good for our listener base. I might keep that and share that later. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a business in the US called The Skim, and they are, I think there's 2 women who started this, is just an email newsletter where they have read the news in the morning. They read the news, they put together a newsletter of really interesting things for people, where they highlight the news and make a bit of commentary, and you can click off to regular news. They have millions of subscribers in the US because people actually want some sort of curation around their news, and they're looking at lots of different sources. And it's just such a simple idea, but it works.
Cool. Well, let's continue to move on, Andrew. And this next slide is quite telling. It's about the value of email, and it's a principle that we really need to remember. It's about the giving and the asking side of things. Yeah,
that's right. And I think a lot of people get kind of scared when they think email marketing of it's a little bit of a dirty kind of phrase in some places, because asking for things is hard, or they feel embarrassed. But when you have this approach to email or to your station, which is that you are giving, people are going to be feeling like, I believe in what this station is about. Maybe it's just the one person that I'm listening to, but I'm on board and I'm a part of sharing common values. And so when you ask somebody to help, people often will say yes straight away. I know I've been getting value out of this. I believe in it. I'm so willing to help here because this is what I'm about. And so that's a really valuable part of email. And people are more likely to donate or support organizations that they hear from regularly and they're familiar with you, because they know you, they like you, and they believe in the same things as you.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I guess that the point is that if you're giving value to your listeners each week and not asking, when it comes to actually asking, don't be scared, be direct, because you've built that relationship with your listener base. So if it's a subscriber invitation or a donation invitation, just send an email that's just surrounded by saying, become a subscriber of our station or make a donation to our station. Don't hide it in your regular newsletter. You've earned that trust. You've earned that right to ask, and because we're talking about a give and take relationship with your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with businesses, you know, really small businesses, one person businesses up to, you know, hundreds of thousands of people in their businesses. And one of the most powerful things that I've seen in terms of growing a business is this idea that you are asking after giving a lot. And, you know, I've got one client who gave for a year before launching their first product. And after all of that time of just giving, they asked for something back. They got, you know, thousands of new customers and really viral kind of spreading of the word, because they only asked, and they asked for a really simple thing, which is, would you buy my product if you're interested? And would you share it with your friends? And people were more than willing to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're very close to actually walking you through building a campaign. We'll be using MailerLite in this example, when we don't have any kickbacks from MailerLite or MailChimp. They're very similar. That's coming out very soon. But this next stat, Andrew, about Facebook and how much of our content gets shared on our newsfeed with our listeners, it's a little depressing.
It is. It's funny, you know. So the quote is, as of late last year, brands could reasonably expect about 5.5% of their followers to see something that they put up on Facebook. It's because Facebook is really an ad platform that works around people generating content. And you know, that is a legitimate way of them running their business. But what it is has gone from around 2012, where people could see most of the things that you'd put up on your page, to an ever diminishing and continuing to diminish organic kind of approach to people seeing content. So, I mean, if you are thinking about like your list of people or your Facebook page, how many people, if it's 5%, are actually going to see any of your content? You send an email to people who have asked to be updated about things. You have a significantly multitude number of times higher of somebody seeing your information. It doesn't mean people always read their emails or your emails, but at least you get to control it. And you know, this is a quote from Hootsuite, who run a social media kind of sharing platform, and so they know this industry extremely well. And continue to report on this kind of, let's say, lack of visibility.
Cool.
So, I mean, yeah, that's one thing. Andrew, I know you've run pages, you know, you've been involved in this stuff, and I guess that's something that you've seen.
Yeah, organic reach has just reduced and reduced and reduced, and yeah, you end up having to boost your posts and doing ad campaigns, and I mean that's fine. But what I love about email is the fact, you know, there are certain emails that I hang out for each week to receive, because I know the content that they're going to share with me is really interesting, and I'm going to learn some stuff. So there are a handful of emails that I look forward to. I know that sounds a little sad, but it just shows you the power of, you know, if I'm interested in what you're in your station, and you're creating great content or curating content that I'm interested in, you know, the idea that I'm hanging out every Friday for that email is, you know, that's kudos to you. So that's what we're wanting you to think about. What does your tribe want from you? And then think about how you can deliver that. So let's move on to the next slide, Andrew, where we talk about goals. So what does a goal look like in creating an email strategy or an e-newsletter?
Yeah, look, and I think this is true really for people who are starting out or have started and aren't quite, you know, making the most of what they hope that they would be doing, which is set a goal of something that is reasonable for you to be able to do, especially if you are the only person involved in the station, which may be, I am going to send one email a week, which is a recap of what we've done, or looking forward to the next week. Or I am going to, promote this on my channels that I'm, on radio, maybe on my website, maybe on Facebook, and just set a goal, be regular about what you're going to be doing, and then execute on it. At very minimum, doing one thing a week is really great. So the other thing, I guess, that I've moved on is this kind of idea that you need permission. There is a kind of an air of sensitivity around security and people getting spam. The idea that email marketing is spam is something that people kind of often feel. I often think of email as kind of a permission-based marketing or conversation. And so if you are having a conversation with somebody in person, obviously you want them to be a willing party in that conversation. When you're thinking about that with your emails, you need to think the same thing. Do you have a willing participant in that relationship? If you don't, that's fine. That's where people unsubscribe. But always get permission with what you're doing.
Cool. Right. Just seeing where we're at. I guess in terms of unsubscribes aren't the end of the world. It just means they're not necessarily into what you're doing at this time.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, unsubscribes scare people, but to me, it's an indicator of defining an audience who really cares. And as with anything, Andrew, people who are involved are much more valuable to you than people, just loads of people. So you may have a list of 100,000 people with only 1,000 people who really care about the core message. Those 1,000 people are where you want to hit. Or you may only have 10. Doesn't matter.
So yeah, so we're not talking about the list number. The list number is not that important. It's really the engagement. How engaged are your email readers? It's like socials. We don't really care about how many followers you've got on Facebook. It's really the ones that you've got. How engaged are they? Making comments, likes, shares, that kind of stuff. It's the same with email. How engaged are they through, one indication is open rates of emails. But I guess we should get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
So Andrew's now going to lead us through creating an email campaign. And as I said, we're going to use MailerLite. They have a free plan up to 1,000 subscribers. There are limitations on what you can do, but they have a free plan. I think the first payment structure is $10, and that opens up and allows you to do a lot more. MailChimp is very similar. The reason why we've gone with MailerLite is it's just a lot more simpler than MailChimp these days. It's a stripped down version of MailChimp, but you get all the essence of email marketing. So we don't get any kickbacks. It's a great service. And so Andrew, do you want to just take us through, I guess, starting an email campaign and an email list from scratch?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of, I've logged into MailerLite already because, no one likes looking through somebody try to log into a website and forgetting their password. This is the free version. Now, so everything you see here is available if you get a free version of MailerLite. The only trade-off is that you'll have this little logo when you send your email at the bottom that says MailerLite, just says who it's from. And I think that's pretty reasonable. I can have up to 1,000 subscribers and send 12,000 emails a month for free, which is fantastic. So this is my homepage. And Andrew, I think you and I have talked about this idea of getting subscribers and people who want to hear about news. And so the first question is, how are you going to get people who are hearing about it? Something like MailerLite really helps with getting subscription forms set up or pages or pop-ups on your website without you having to know any special additional code. And so maybe we'll go through that first, is to kind of set ourselves up to get subscribers on our list.
Okay, so this idea is this is how we're going to build your email list. And this is called a pop-up. It's going to appear on your website. If you've got a WordPress site, you can download the MailChimp or the MailerLite WordPress plugin, and it will automatically create the pop-up on your web page. Now, how you want to build your list of names is by always promoting your free newsletter or whatever email you're doing on your radio station and drive them to your website. On your socials, you want to drive them to your website to sign up to your newsletter. So we're always wanting to drive to the website so they can sign up there. And what Andrew's about to do is create a pop-up which readers will see when they land on the web page.
That's right. And so we're going to create a pop-up. There are loads of different ways that you can do pop-ups. I'm going to do a really quick one. CBA website pop-up. Doesn't really matter what you call it. No one's ever going to see it. But it's something that just help us to identify. If I have multiple websites, for instance, I might want different pop-ups, or I have a pop-up just for a special event, maybe a giveaway. And I'm trying to collect people's names. One thing I think, Andrew, we didn't talk about was that competitions are excellent for getting people to subscribe, as long as they're interested in the prize.
It's a quick way to build a list, but the caveat I would say with email, with competition email addresses, is that they're after something to win. And so you need to build and cultivate that relationship, because they're not necessarily going to support your station straight away, because they've come in to win. It's really what they want rather than giving you something that you want. So just be aware of the value of competition email addresses for donations.
Now, so I've created a form. I'm going to tell it where I want, when people enter their data, what list that I want. And so I've got this one already set up as a subscriber group. It's called CBAA, and I'm going to select that's where I want my subscribers to go. You may have, typically probably have one list, but people who are getting a bit more complex might have lots more. So there's templates of things that were already available to you to have a pop-up on your website. Or other pages, and you don't have to code on it. It's a really quick and easy way of doing a sign up. So I'm going to select one that is kind of out of the way. So it pops up on top of the website, but it's not right in my face, because I really care about the sensitivity of people reading my website.
So this pop-up, Andrew, appears in the bottom right-hand corner. That's
correct, yeah. And you have loads of different ways of showing the pop-up. While it loads, we can see here on the right-hand side all of these different options, colors, text settings that I can set. And I have creative control over my pop-up. So here it is in the context of a website. Down the right-hand side, and as I hover over, I can edit some of those elements that are in these boxes. So I might want to say, join our station community, pop a headline, and get the latest weekly news from station CBAA. Which is a really easy, fast way of changing what I'm going to say. Now, my text is obviously not unlock. It's going to be something like subscribe. And what you really want to do is set expectations with this about what people are going to get out of your email. And when it comes in, they're going to be happy with that.
So that tagline underneath join community, join our station community, is where you put the offer. This is what you're going to get.
That's it. That's it. And so people know exactly what they're signing up for. There's no surprises. You have already set a goal of setting, let's say, a weekly newsletter, and you are going to tell people at every step, expect to get a weekly newsletter. And so all we've done is get the latest weekly news, and that's going to be really aligned with what people want.
Awesome.
Save that. Now, there are loads of different things. I can change the image in the background. And I can change that image to something more like, somebody who is listening to music. And while I might not be able to read that immediately, that's fine, because I can change the color of my text. And so really, really customizable to what you want. Now, that image itself is not the best, but as an example, that's fine. what you might want to do is to then just say, I'm ready, I'm happy with this, and I'm going to move forward with some of the settings. There's privacy policies if you really need to do them. You can add privacy policies. Again, people are sensitive to their privacy online, so always pay attention to that. And so you can unsubscribe anytime. People are really, really sensitive, and they're happy to know that they can get out of it. You're not sending them spam. Yeah. So once we're happy with this, I like this. I've got black now because I can read it, get the latest news. I can change that again back to white. It doesn't really matter. I can play around with it as much as I want. Once we're happy with that, we're going to move forward with actually implementing this on our website. Now, the platform MailerLite is really easy to use, and it gives you kind of options for when something like this is going to show. Obviously, we're not just going to, go straight in as soon as people load the website, say, hey, subscribe to our website, subscribe to our email. We want to just give them some time to show interest before they subscribe. So we've got an option here. It says wait 5 seconds before showing them a pop-up, or show it when they're 50% of the way through the website, 75 or 100% through a page. Another option is to pop up a subscription just as they're leaving the website. This is something that's just desktop only. It doesn't work on mobile because they can't work out where your mouse is up to. Other options, frequency, how often do you want to show it if people don't subscribe? I would suggest once a month is fine, once a week is okay. Yep. Definitely not on a daily basis, because that's just quite frustrating. You'd go nuts. Yeah. More likely to get frustrated. And when you want to schedule it. It could be for a period of time. If you've got a competition pop up, I'm just going to show it this week, and then next week it's not going to show, or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is when I'm going to show it. You could also hide it on certain devices. I might not want it on my mobile device, or I might not want it on tablets. So you can hide it in different contexts, which is just really up to you. But the basic thing here is you have some control. The default settings are really fine, and they're probably a best, most common use. So I'm going to save that without changing too much. And it comes to this installation tracker. So this is really, so people kind of go freak out when they see a bit of code, not sure how to handle it. MailerLite gives some great advice, especially if you're using WordPress. It gives a link to the
And Andrew's just broken up there. So what he was going to say is, if you use WordPress, you can download the MailChimp, the MailChimp or the MailerLite WordPress plugin, and it will automatically settle this up for you. So you don't have to worry about script. The plugin does it all for you. And the great thing is, like, you might be turned off plugins, pop-ups. You might go, oh, they're invasive, but they work. And so many examples show you a dramatic increase in subscriber rates when you use pop-ins, and they're pretty much widely accepted these days. And as you've seen, you can control the frequency so not to annoy your readers of your website.
Yeah, exactly, Andrew. You definitely don't want to get in the way of your primary purpose and annoy your readers or listeners. So look, once I've got that code, I might give that to my web developer, or if I'm using WordPress, I will install that plugin. And so that's great. It's really great information. I'm going to skip over to the next page where we've done the work. Hooray! We've got something set up and it's on our website. But what is it doing? You may think we're going to get everybody on the website subscribed soon. But how will you know? So we have these dashboards that are going to help us to understand where things are up to. As you can see, the status of this is paused. You may have multiple, and you want to know which one is displaying or not. I actually just I want to preview the design. Oh, there it is. The actual design and the actual experience of a pop-up on your screen. Easily get rid of it, test it, change it, see it multiple times, make sure that you're pretty happy with the way it looks.
Cool. Andrew, time is running away quite quickly, so we probably should move on to actually creating a campaign, a newsletter campaign. Should we just move towards that?
Let's do that.
If you've got questions about pop-ups, we're happy to answer them at the end of the session or offline, not a problem.
Mm-hmm. So easy, this is a campaign. An email is called a campaign. And so what we're going to do, same thing as for a pop-up, we're going to head in and start creating a campaign. Now, as we've always talked about, subject lines are the first thing that anybody will see from your email. So we're going to make this newsworthy, and we're going to meet the expectations of what we've set on that initial pop-up. So we're going to this is a really quick one. This week's news from station CBAA. All right.
I think, yeah, from my experience, really saying what it is, newsletter or what's on, or this week's news, and maybe one story always works. When you do A/B testing, which is comparing two subject lines, the simple, clearly laid out what it is, subject line always wins over any fancy sort of clickbaity kind of title.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so for this one, it might be this week's news from station CBAA, and then maybe you paste in, you put in something around the lines of the lead article. Australia is great. Here's an article. Who knows? So we've got something to lead in, and then who it's from. People aren't going to remember you every single time, and so we do want to make sure it's clear who this newsletter is coming from. And typically, I would put a station name or business name. If you have a one-on-one relationship, like it's a station CEO or somebody like that who is sending the email, maybe you want to change that to somebody else. Say Andrew was running something for himself, he might put Andrew Morris. Importantly as well, an email address that people can reply to. As we talk about it being a relationship, allow people to send back emails to say, yes, that was great, thanks for that email, I really appreciated it, and I'd love to hear more, so they can reply to a real person. I'm going to click on next and get to our content. I see we've only got a few minutes left. Now, the options here are really powerful for you, all the way to editing your own code. You may not want to do that. This is for a paid plan, down to drop and drag editor, and there's a template gallery, like with the forms that you can see a little bit of. So I'm going to click on template gallery, and we're going to have a look at all of the options available. And there's some beautiful, beautiful looking designs that you might want to use in yours. For today, we're going to go through the drag and drop editor to show you how you don't have to have code. You don't have to know anything to be able to make an email. MailChimp has the same thing as well. If you choose to go with another platform, most platforms will use these drag and drop editors of varying different qualities. And what they allow is, as well, they give you loads of other options for creating something that really suits your brand and your style. Now,
the great thing, Andrew, sorry, is that these are templates that will work on your desktop and your mobile. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to read an email that doesn't design and fit your mobile device, and you're squinting to try and see the text. So these are great templates. They're laid out. It's really just drop your information in, and you've got this professional looking email.
That's right. And you can even view it in this platform in the next step on desktop and mobile, and see what it looks like when people receive it. So look, I'm just going to go through and edit a couple of things, Andrew. Obviously, we're not airmail. We're going to change this image I'm going to do CBAA, select that, and insert my little logo. Now, it's a little bit small, it's a bit hard to see, but that's fine. I can go into my settings and increase the size. Don't have to know any extra code to do that. It's just going to do it for me. And if I want to change any other elements, move it to the left, move it to the right, change the background color, we can do that. Turn backgrounds off. It's all a part of it, and it's really easy to do. We're just going to save that quickly and move in. So if I'm writing a newsletter, maybe this is my headline, news article with an image. I've received a little bit of news below that, and then a button to include. Now that's really great for starting off, but look, I might have some more news. And so along here on the left-hand side, I can select one of various different articles or blocks to insert. And it's as easy as selecting, dragging, and dropping, and it's all ready to go.
And it looks great. That's, yeah, it's very clean.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, this is going to be hard to read on mobile, so we might check what it looks like a little bit later.
Yeah.
There's also option, Andrew, as well. We may want to show only certain people this newsletter, and we can this part of it, and we can select what kind of audience will see a particular piece of news.
Okay. So, yeah, so I mean, this is an introduction to email marketing, and it's our intention to do a more advanced email marketing webinar in the next few months, where we'll really get down into segmenting and sending specific content to different audiences. But for this one, it's just a real hands-on, basic. This is a simple newsletter that we can do. So you can see how easy it is just dragging and dropping those different kinds of block bits of information to create a really compelling station newsletter.
Okay, so we can really easily edit text. We could change colors of text. We could make things bold, underlined, italics, all of that. It's probably not the greatest thing to be able to do that. I would stick with a really consistent view, consistent coloring, and stay with the basics, because it's not always better to make things look jazzy or to, make them different every time. Someone's going to read through your email. They want to have consistent reading experience.
Yeah.
So now, Andrew, I'm really happy with the way that my newsletter has come out. I've got my 4 articles and my headline article here. So I'm going to be done with my editing, and we're going to move on to actually getting it sent.
So I guess in terms of just the content side of this newsletter, Andrew, you're looking at, putting your logo up the top, a heading saying something about a newsletter or what's on your community station, then adding the individual news items, which are probably just a summary, which either can be linked back to a website or to an external other site. Again, we're wanting to engage with your listeners. You don't have to put all the content on your own website. In an ideal world, that would be great. But we understand that volunteers and capacity and resources is limited. So do what you can do. It's really about engaging and providing value to your listeners. So moving on.
Okay, so we've done that, and I've got my weekly newsletter. I've got that goal of sending news out, sending to wherever I need to go. Now, I'm happy to find that I've got some subscribers here because my pop-up form was fantastic, and I've got people coming in. So I'm going to go and send to all of my active subscribers. I'm going to click and confirm. All I have to do is tick that, and you can exclude people. I could exclude people who I don't want to send to, but we can deal with that at a more advanced time. And before we click, we get this one last screen, typically one last screen. Often people, we don't want to make a mistake sending. So we're going to check over a few things, and testing is super important part of that.
Yeah.
So this is our final kind of review where my subject and sender who it's from. So this is my subject, my sender, it's from me. I can see that it's in English, which is great. And then I can preview. One of my favorite buttons is send test email. And so I click on send a test email. I might want to send it to myself. I would love to send it to somebody else who's going to look at it with fresh eyes, click through links, and make sure everything works before I send it.
Yeah, so we really want to test we want to test the links. We want to test the images, and also when you add images to email, it's really important to put an alt image text description, because you may have vision impaired people reading these or screen readers reading these newsletters. And so it's really important that the screen reader picks up on the images and that the description of the image says what it is. So it gives context and understanding to your vision impaired listeners or readers. So
yeah, that's right.
You want to test that, all that kind of stuff. If you're using personalization, so dear first name, you really want to make sure that it puts the people's names in your email list in there and doesn't have dear test or dear first person or whatever. Not great to send that out.
No, not great. Everybody makes that mistake at some point in their career or whatever it might be.
Yeah. You do it once or twice.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you learn from the mistake. We're not typically we're not saving people's lives by sending an email. You may be, but not everybody does. So don't fret. So look, I'm happy with that. I've tested it. I've had somebody who is visually impaired to test that the email works as well, or whatever it might be that I need to check again. I've got my recipients, so all subscribers, and then I'm going to get down to the details. I can schedule this campaign. I can send it now. I can send it later. Maybe I'm really ready to go and it's actually a Friday email. So I can schedule this ahead of time in what I know is my Sydney-based daylight time. Or if I'm paying for it, I might be able to send on different time zones, which is a really valuable way of giving it to people when they're more likely to read it. And at the same time, I would potentially like to track this with Google Analytics. Now, that's a totally different subject, but if I was using Google Analytics to understand who was on my website, I might click that and then schedule the email. So once done, I'm going to click schedule. It's going to go out on the 18th, which is great. In 3 days, I'm ready to go, and off we pop. Now, once that's done, Andrew, maybe I just go and have a look at a campaign that I've sent previously and have a look at some of the results that I've got from it.
So once the email's gone, we want to look at the report and just have a look at what the open rate was. We want to see what people clicked on. And so having a look at the report's quite a useful bit of information to see what worked, what didn't work, and maybe you can tweak something for next time.
Yeah, that's right. And I really using these emails to understand what people are interested in. So in a previous email we sent, 2 people, or 66%, opened the email, and 1 person, 33%, clicked. If I want to understand what people clicked on, I can look down here and see that, oh, somebody clicked on my survey link or whatever it might be. And then I can go and understand that a bit better. That's really going to help you to refine the content that you want to include in maybe your newsletter. Unsubscribes is a point. If everybody's unsubscribing, maybe you want to stop sending that content.
Yeah.
But there's a few more pieces of detail you can go through.
I guess just explaining the hard bounce and soft bounce, if you're seeing that. A hard bounce pretty much means the email address no longer works. A soft bounce means maybe they're away and they've got an out of office reply on, or their email box is full. So a soft bounce, it potentially will be sent again to these people, but a hard bounce, those emails will never be sent to any hard bounces again because those email addresses don't work. So that's sort of a description of what those terms mean. Yeah,
that's right. And they'll manage that for you so you don't accidentally send to a load of people who will never get it.
Yep.
Because you definitely don't want to be doing that.
Cool. So that's the report side of things.
Yeah.
And it's basically send, have a look, and tweak what you're doing, give the people more of what they like, and you'll be on a sort of a winning way.
That's right. And take your time to do it.
Take your time. Excellent. So I guess we're almost close to getting questions, but do you just want to summarize, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. So in summary, I guess one of the things I want to talk about is email is really within your grasp to be able to do. Tools like MailerLite are simple, cheap, effective ways of getting your relationship moving with listeners and subscribers. It's valuable. As you hear more, as send more, you will build relationships and people will get on board in your tribe. You also own this media. When you have a list of people who are subscribed to you, you are the one who decides if you're going to send an email or not. It's not somebody else's relationship like Facebook or Twitter or MySpace. You can set it up really quickly. You can get started. As you've seen today, it's taken us 20 minutes to do this. Might take a little longer for the first time, but you can definitely do it. And doing anything is better than doing nothing.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for giving us your expertise, Andrew. It's been really, really, really helpful. And as Andrew said, it's really just giving it a go. Email marketing is such a valuable tool for your station, and you'll really find a lot of benefits of building relationships. And in the end, hopefully the bottom line is that a number of your readers will become supporters of your station and become a subscriber or a financial donor to your station. You're giving them stuff, they appreciate it, they want to support you in what you do. So it's very much a relationship of give and take. And the end goal is that we have an engaged audience who hopefully will support you down the track.
Yeah, exactly. And give, then ask. Definitely do an ask at some point.
Thank you, Andrews. I've just got a few questions that I'll run through here. Molly asked at the start of the session, you referred to a study on return of investment from 2014. Is there sort of any newer data on that you're referring to, or is that sort of the most up-to-date that's available?
Look, yes, there is loads. You can find, doing a really quick Google search for email return on investment or ROI will find you lots of data. And it really depends on where you're up to, maybe what industry you're in. It has hovered around the $40 mark for the last few years. I haven't looked lately, but it's certainly, we could get some links maybe and send them through.
Excellent. I'll include that in the follow-up information that we'll send out, because that'll answer a few questions that everyone's having about whether a recording of this session will be made available or whether there'll be sort of other materials. Yes, indeed. Everyone who's registered will be sent that. As soon as we can bounce down the video of this session, and keeping in mind the technical difficulties we've experienced today, that might be a couple of months. I'll endeavour to do it within 24 hours. Molly also, the definition of an ask, is it just sort of asking for money, or is a survey also an ask?
Yeah, look, the surveys are fine. Maybe you've just introduced something new and you want to ask people if something went well. You can put a survey. MailerLite actually will help you to do that if you have a look around. It could just be as simple as saying, we have a fundraising event on, will you donate? We have
Excellent.
a thing, will you give us some feedback?
Some queries here about seeking permission. If you're starting a new database, Mick Ayers is asking this. G'day, Mick. If starting a new database, can I add businesses that advertise their email address as a contact method? So like publicly available email addresses? Is that sort of considered implied permission to add to a database?
Look, I wouldn't do it. If people put emails out, they haven't really asked to join. There may be a connection between you and the station, that business and the station or somebody else, but I would ask for an explicit opt-in at that point. It's just the safest way of doing it.
Some queries in here as
Andrew?
well about sort of getting you. Oh, sorry, Andrew Morris, were you going to say something then?
No, I was just going to talk about asks. Every email should have a call to action. So if you're doing articles on your website, it would be read more. If it's support the station, become a subscriber. These are all call to actions. So when you have a piece of information, always have an action at the end. Do this, do that, become this, become that, donate now. So you've got to tell the listener, the reader, what to do next with what I've just read.
Excellent. There's a few queries in there about the formatting of these emails. Is it a good idea to sort of type up what you're going to have in your email in a Word document, first of all, to make sure that your formatting and spelling is correct, or maybe do it in the MailerLite platform and then copy and paste it over to Word to make sure the spelling's correct? Is there an established practice there in regards to that?
Yeah, look, sometimes Wendy's really right when she says that sometimes you can cut and paste from Word into Notepad and then into email. Sometimes Word will generate some special characters you can't see that will, create line breaks where you don't want them and stuff like that. So it's a really valuable, important way of making sure you've got some clean text. There's lots of different problems that you can come up with in email.
Excellent. A couple of ones here. Is there the capability there with MailerLite to send campaigns in different languages?
Yeah, yes. Typically, though, you will make that setting. I don't think it's going to translate it for you, but when you send an email, it should have some information about it that says if this is going to be in English or this is a right to left kind of reading environment, and so it would display it correctly if it's in a language.
And sorry, the screen has changed at the moment because I'm just putting it before everyone has to get on out of here. Just want to let people know about the 2020 CBAA conference happening online in 2020 from the 28th to the 31st of October. There'll be much more information for that coming from the CBAA website soon, but that's not a glitch for why that's showing up on your screen. You're just the first ones to know about it. Denise Kuchmar asks, how do we avoid being perceived as spam?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, if it's the reader who's thinking it's spam, maybe you're not offering what you said you were going to offer, and you've started talking about things that aren't related to your core promise. Other things, again, if you've gotten permission and people have forgotten where you're from, maybe they've forgotten that they signed up. Just put a little line in, you subscribed from our website or on our social media site to remind them where you're from. Andrew.
Yeah, the other thing is being careful what kind of words that you use in subject headings. So there are plenty, if you Google, spammy subject headings for emails, you'll soon get a list from probably a Hootsuite or a HubSpot, these big email companies that give you a list of words to avoid using in email subject heading lines. So that way you'll hopefully avoid the Google and the Outlook spam folders. So yeah, be careful with your spammy words.
The words to live by. And I think we've just hit midday, which means we should probably get on out of here. I just want to let people know that the CBAA webinars will continue. Our next webinar will be 1 week from now, happening at 2 in the afternoon. That's Tuesday, 22nd of September 2020, running your AGM during COVID-19, because obviously sort of that is a big thing to deal with at the moment. The session is going to look at use of technology at an AGM, financial reporting requirements, voting electronically, and differences in legislation and administrative environment from state to state. Today's session, email marketing isn't dead. It's your #1 communication channel. Thanks to everyone who joined us on Zoom and also to everyone who joined us via Facebook Live. A recording of this will be made available. Well, you won't get a more dynamic duo than Andrew and Andrew.
We should give Andrew Beeson a plug for his email address if you want to talk to him about email marketing. What's your email address, Andrew?
Yeah, you can contact me at andrew@clickyemail.com.
And we will, of course, include Andrew's contact details and, of course, his email address in the follow-up correspondence for today's session. But it's absolutely wonderful to be able to call on both of our Andrews for today's session. It's a wonderful idea, the email marketing thing. It's obviously one of those things that is there, and you can use it to make the communication from your station even more exciting and dynamic, and make sure that you're hitting all those touch points in your community. Andrew and Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon. Do you have any final thoughts before I hit stop on the old Zoom?
No, I do not.
Thanks for having me. I've really appreciated the time to share.
Well, we thank you so much for being a part of our CBAA webinars, and we will, of course, grab all of your contact details and send that on to everyone here who has attended today's session. Thanks very much, everyone, for taking the time this afternoon to come and join us here on the webinar platform. On behalf of the CBAA, we'll see you all very, very soon. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.